Good morning, and welcome to Morning Messages of Hope and Inspiration. My name is Jenny McBride, and today I wanted to talk about a very difficult subject, abortion. I watched a movie this week called Life Mark, and it's a true story. Well, it's based on a true story of David and Melissa. David was adopted, and he turns 18, and it's sort of his journey of finding out more about his mom and his dad, his birth mom and birth dad. And it's just a beautiful celebration of life and discovery. Highly recommend it. Kirk Cameron is one of the executive producers and plays the adopted father of David, the main character. So if you are looking for a drama with a few and willing to cry a few tears, Life Mark is a really good movie. And this movie has caused me to reflect on my perspective, my thoughts, and my feelings about abortion. I think all of us know individuals who've considered having abortion or who have had an abortion. I have known dear friends who, due to health issues or due to very difficult circumstances, have chosen to have an abortion. And I also have dear friends and family members who've chosen not to have an abortion in very difficult circumstances. I believe this decision, number one, I can't imagine making this decision without the help of God. I believe this decision should be very carefully considered in regards to the health of the mother and the child and what is best for both in those circumstances. I don't think there is an easy abortion is always wrong or abortion is always right. I think it's a very individual decision, and I think especially in the cases where the mom or the baby's health is at risk, it should be considered. I also think in the cases of incest or rape, it also should be considered if the mother is, the pregnant mother's young, and this could be very difficult for them. I mean, there's just a lot of things to consider in a situation like this. The story that's the most personal about abortion is the story of my mother. The story of her birth, and the story of her last pregnancy. My grandmother got pregnant with my mother in 1951. She already had she'd given birth to 5 boys. The youngest had died of Down syndrome. I don't even know if he'd lived a year. His name was Robert. But her oldest 3 sons were all like finishing high school, and she's pregnant with my mom. And she had some health issues. She's in her late 30s. And the doctors are very, very concerned. But my grandmother was a woman of faith, and she took it to the Lord. And she chose to have that baby, even if it meant she might die. And they didn't know if the baby would make it either. So she wrote individual little love notes. Can you imagine? She's in her 30s, and she writes a letter to her husband and to her 4 living sons, telling them how much she loves them. And then she goes in to give birth, not knowing if she will live or if she will die. I am named after my grandma Jenny. We called her Nana. And I am so grateful for the decision she made under very difficult circumstances to give birth to my mom. I am so grateful for her. Well, fast forward, my mom's now in her early 30s and has Lou Gehrig's disease. It's also called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. They did that water dumping, buckets of water challenge, and raised a lot of awareness about this disease, but a lot of people aren't familiar with it, and it usually happens to men that are older, and they usually starts in the hands and feet and lose their ability to control their body or control their hand motions, their arm, and then many are unable to speak, hold up their head, communicate, do any normal things. Some people, the disease is hereditary. I think it's a small portion, and others, they don't know where it comes from. They don't know much about this disease, actually. But it affects the neurons and the nerves, and the mind is unable to control the body anymore, and the muscles waste away. So it's a very long, slow death, and you're basically trapped in a dying body. Most people's minds are okay. I think some people might be affected. I don't know if it's a relationship with other diseases. But my mom was in her early 30s, and she had just given birth to her 5th daughter. and she just started dropping things. And she went into the doctor and found out she had this disease. And then a few years later, she finds out she's pregnant. And there were many miracles involved in this pregnancy. Like my mother had fallen in our home and hit the piano bench right here. And it slit her chin open. So right under her lip, if she did that, that's not fun to do on a video camera. If she did that, she could stick her tongue out underneath her lip. So we lived up in this mountain community in the Los Angeles National Forest known as Fraser Park of Pinyon Pines. And her dear friend drove her to the emergency room like over an hour away. So she gets there and the doctor says, "Is there any chance you're pregnant?" And she's like, "I don't think I am." He goes, "Is there any chance?" And he was very insistent. He must have asked her 3 or 5 times if she was pregnant. And she said, "Well, I could be." But, here she had this disease and she just didn't even think she was. So the doctor gave her certain medicine that would not affect the baby. And come to find out 2 months later, she finds out she had just gotten pregnant. And at that time, she was pregnant. And as you can imagine, a mother of 5 children with Lou Gehrig's disease, the doctors very much presented the option of abortion. Medically, it was highly recommended. Number one, they'd never known a woman with Lou Gehrig's disease or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or ALS to get pregnant. So they did not know how she would respond. So they asked her to consider it. Family members were very concerned about the health of my mom and the baby, and they thought it was a very good choice for her to make. But according to my mother, she never considered it. My mom loved being a mom. Loved it. Like, it brought her so much joy. The 60s and 70s were a time of great feminist movement, and my mom was a very strong, very intelligent woman, but she wanted to be a mom. And she just never considered killing that girl. Even though it may have prolonged her life, I don't believe it would have. I believe the pregnancy did prolong my mom's life because it gave her something she could do. So even though in 1985 they had no idea if my mom would live, they had no idea if the baby would be healthy because it was unprecedented. They had no medical history. So somewhere in some medical journal is the story of my mom with Lou Gehrig's disease and giving birth. They induced the baby 2 weeks early, and my mom was able to have natural childbirth even though she had Lou Gehrig's disease, an incurable disease. The doctors were in shock. She just had a great delivery. The baby was perfectly healthy and so beautiful and such a joy to our family. So my mom lived 20 more months after this baby was born. My mom had had a plan. If she died and the baby lived, for this baby to go to a family, a friend of hers who had been unable to have children. And my mom said in a letter to my baby sister that I believe I lived so you could stay with your sisters. I love my baby sister so much. She's no longer a baby. She's now older than my mom was when my mom gave birth to her. I am so grateful for her presence in our life during a very difficult time while my mom was losing her ability to do pretty much everything. Like, we had to prop up my mom's arm on a pillow for her to be able to nurse her. There were cans of Ensure that my mom would drink just so she could nurse the baby, because that's the only thing she could do for her last baby girl. My little sister, who's just under me, was pretty much that baby girl's mom, and I did a lot of taking care of my mother and while we were at school, the wonderful women in our church and in our neighborhood would come over and take care of my mom and my baby sisters, the 2 that were still at home. I'm so grateful for them. So grateful for their sacrifice and their willingness to help my mom stay in our home and be our mom. I'm so grateful for their willingness to take care of my baby sisters so I could go to school. I'm so grateful for the sacrifices, and I'm so grateful for the faith of my mother to give us the gift of my baby sister. I love her so much. She was so loved and such. If you can imagine for a moment, my mom literally was losing her ability to do anything. She couldn't cook, she couldn't clean, she couldn't walk, she could barely talk, barely communicate. She gave us this gift of this beautiful, happy, joyful baby girl who we could focus on the baby and the joy instead of my mom dying. So life was sort of normal. My whole life, my mom had given birth to babies, and babies had just been a part of our whole life. And this baby was the center of our life. She was so beautiful, and she was needy, and she had things she needed. And as she was increasing in her ability to do things, my mom's health was severely decreasing. And my mom died the day after Mother's Day in 1987, and that baby girl is about 20 months old. I testify. Jesus Christ loves us, and he can strengthen us to do really hard things and to make really hard decisions, such as helping my mom and my grandmother choose to give birth, even if they didn't know they would live through it, even if they didn't know what the consequences would be on their baby. I'm so grateful they were willing to be prayerful and careful and considerate, that they were willing to seek to know and do God's will through the power of prayer. I am so grateful for the power of prayer. I am so grateful for the decisions my grandmother and my mother made and how it's impacted my life. I wouldn't be here if my grandmother had chosen to have an abortion. My baby sister wouldn't be here. All of us are going to face times in our life where we have to make difficult decisions, and the power of prayer is real. Sometimes we're going to make really good decisions. Sometimes we're going to make really stupid ones and be unaware of how that decision will affect our life or the lives of those we love or the lives of strangers. The power of Jesus Christ to heal us and to make all experiences be for our good is so real. He loves us, and he wants to heal our broken hearts and help us learn from these choices and experiences. People in our life might make decisions that could hurt us, but God can heal our hearts. God can help us, and I have seen God's love in the lives of those who have made very difficult choices in regards to abortion. It is my hope and prayer that we can be kinder. We don't know the individual circumstances of each individual. I've met a lot of students, and I know a lot of different individual circumstances, and the more I learn, the more love I feel for these individuals who face very difficult decisions. The power of faith in our lives is essential in making decisions. The power of faith is essential when we make stupid ones. I testify Jesus Christ is our Savior. He loves us and longs to walk this difficult journey with us. I testify that he loves us and will help us. And I say these things in his beautiful name, Jesus Christ. Thank you for joining me in Morning Messages of Hope and Inspiration. My name is Jenny McBride, and if you like these videos, will you please like, subscribe, and share? And you can find more videos at All His Light on YouTube with Jenny McBride. Thank you and have a wonderful day.